faster, I'm more secure than you'll ever be. I'm faster, I'm cheap and my name is XRP. To the moon, yeah, get everybody by surprise with my money. Everybody by surprise, XRP. Everybody by surprise, see it coming. Everybody gotta just wait and see. I get everybody by surprise with my money. Everybody by surprise, XRP. Everybody by surprise, see it coming. Everybody gotta just wait and see. We about to bank the unbanked, bank the unbanked, bank the unbanked now. Bank the unbanked, bank the unbanked, bank the unbanked now. Bank the unbanked, bank the unbanked, bank the unbanked now. Bank the unbanked, now bank the unbanked. Yeah, everybody by surprise with my money. Everybody by surprise, XRP. Everybody by surprise, see it coming. Everybody gotta just wait and see. I get everybody by surprise with my money. Everybody by surprise, XRP. Everybody by surprise, see it coming. Everybody gotta just wait and see. I'm faster, I'm more secure than you'll ever be. I'm faster, I'm cheap and my name is XRP. I'm faster, I'm more secure than you'll ever be. I'm faster, I'm cheap and my name is XRP. Everybody by surprise with my money. Everybody by surprise, XRP. Everybody by surprise, see it coming. Everybody gotta just wait and see. I get everybody by surprise with my money. Everybody by surprise, XRP. Everybody by surprise, see it coming. Everybody gotta just wait and see. I get everybody by surprise with my money. Everybody by surprise, XRP. Everybody by surprise, see it coming. Everybody gotta just wait and see.
Hello everybody, and even if it's just one, let's get started. Hi El Chapo, I'm hoping that more people will join us. Anyway, let's start. First, I really hope that everyone is healthy. I have no financial interests and no what did I usually say? No financial interest and no sponsored links. Right. Me and my wife were on vacation last week in the southwest of Switzerland, in the state of Wallis, which is basically a state of mountains. There is a huge valley with the Rhone River coming down from the mountains, and as I said, lots of mountains, lots of valleys. We ourselves had our apartment on a hillside, like 20 minutes up from the valley, in a very nice little village, beautiful view, and we made some interesting excursions. Like, we have been visiting the highest dam for water electricity actually in Europe. It's the highest dam in Europe. It's like 285 meters high or something. And there was a tier line going in front of it, and I took that adventure. It was pretty nice. And some other really nice old Swiss villages we have seen, and it was really a good time to relax. And the good thing was we went without our dogs. As many or some of you might know, we have for about a year now 3 dogs. We took over 2 dogs from the daughter of my wife, and they're living with us now. But last week her daughter was actually taking care in our house for the 3 dogs, like our original dog Luna and the 2 little ones Nikki and Buddha. And we really enjoyed being not requiring taking care of the dogs for about a week, even though we really like them every day. So much about my personal situation. I'm healthy. I got my first vaccination today. I felt pressured by the government in Switzerland to take the vaccination, which is something I fight quite hard. But basically, I do not see another possibility in my current situation than to take it. Because without the vaccination, you're basically prevented from fitness studios, from libraries, from everything indoor, basically. Without grocery stores. Grocery stores don't require it, but everywhere else, restaurants, kinos, movie theaters, they all require vaccination passport, which is a damn shit, and Switzerland is a mess in that regard, like many other countries as well. I will talk a little bit more about that in the end of this live stream. Actually, about the proposal from Galgitron for a new, I lost my mouse, for a new for a new political system, and it's called merit democracy, because you need to earn your merits to be able to vote and to be able to be elected. So, but now regarding XRP, I got the request from many sides to talk a little bit about the state of XRP, and as a matter of fact, I don't really have to say a lot about XRP. I'm still freaking bullish. I really hope that the SEC case will come to an end, hopefully this year. And I really hope that this will be the big bang for actually going into the at least double-digit dollar areas. That would be so soothing for a lot of us. It would still be way off the value I have been proposing years ago, which is required if high value payments go through ODL, and I still stick with those 3 to 4 digit figures based on many analyses I have done in the past, which basically show that for very little percentage of the global market going through ODL, but it really requires at least medium payments, and medium payments for me is something between 10 and $100 million. That's medium, because the high value payments, they go up to 1 billion. As a matter of fact, in Target 2, the European real-time payment system has 200 payments of more than 1 billion per day. So we have like 2,440 minutes divided by 200, so that's like every 7 minutes a 1 billion payment goes through the system. And hoping that this will happen very soon might be a bit over exaggerated, but if it's just like, I mean, again, coming back to the Target 2 system, there is like, I think like every second more than one, at least 5 million payment going through the system. It's freaking crazy. And with that volume, or part of that volume, we really need 3 digits. Now, about the SEC case, I'm really hoping you guys know that Jeremy Hogan, I guess he's called, that attorney who basically explains what's going on in the SEC case, and for me it all sounds quite promising, like that Ripple has the better cards in its hands, and I really hope that there will be a decision there. Gary Gensler, which is basically very funny. I mean, I knew that before Gensler was CEO of SEC, but the whole XRP community said yes, Gensler is coming, and like 3 months after he got in place, like Gensler, asshole. And I mean, for me it was before already clear that it would turn out that way. After all, that one particular case is definitely not the most high priority case for Gensler. I'm pretty sure that they have more stock related cases which are more important, where really investors are getting scammed for their money. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I follow attorney Jeremy Hogan, I guess is his name, and what he's telling is actually quite good. Then on the Flare network side, I am not very much up to date. I just read one tweet from Hugo Filion recently, where he was talking about Songbird network. And as most of you might know, Songbird was proposed as kind of like a test system for the real Flare network. Basically, meaning that it's basically a little bit like the proposed side chains from David Schwartz. Like another system having the similar or identical characteristics, but it's not on the production system. So you basically can test out everything there, and if there everything is working fine, you then go on and move it to production if you feel this is required. We know from other networks, I don't remember the name of the other networks, but there was a side network, something like Kama Sutra, but it was not Kama Sutra. Anyway, maybe you know what I'm talking about. And on that other main network with this Kama Sutra, whatever network on the side, there were some projects on that side chain, if you so want, which actually stuck there. They never made it to production, and that coin from that side network actually also gained in price. The nice thing is, those who applied, I don't know if applied is the proper term in terms of requesting the Spark token to be distributed. What was the term there? Claim. Those who claimed Spark tokens properly will also receive those tokens from the Songbird network, but I think there it'll be, I'm not totally up to date. I think it'll be less tokens overall, and as I remember properly, we only will get the third, like one time those Songbird tokens, and not like in the Flare network every month between 2 and 4% of what we have been proposed. If we will receive only the 15% from the first in month, same as we receive on Flare network, that I don't know, maybe some of you might know. Anyway, we will get these tokens. There is so many like IOUs coming out on XRP, some NFT tokens, some other tokens. There was a time like 2 months back or so when like every other day another token was being issued where you could set the trust line. But my opinion, and this is basically what I have been asked to do a live stream for, my opinion is that most of those coins will will not have much value at all. I really can. I also had an interesting call from a German follower in Germany. I don't remember, is he from the area of Köln? I actually don't remember from where he was. Maybe he's listening here, I don't know. His name is Daniel, and I have been... He called me 3, 4, 5 months ago and had some questions. I think it was also around Flare network and DeFi and so. And I told him I am not convinced yet that DeFi, in the way which it is proposed in the current solutions, we know that this is like the end story of cryptocurrencies. And I basically told him why, and I told him it's basically about collateral. Okay, one could argue yes, in Flare network we do have the collateral, but there is many other DeFi oriented systems which do not have that type of collateral. And actually there was a quite underviewed interview from David Schwartz with a guy. He had like an Indian touch a little. I don't know, Indian or Filipinian touch, something like that. And in that video, in that interview, David Schwartz was also talking about DeFi a little bit. He was asked by the interviewer about his thoughts on DeFi or DeFi, and David Schwartz basically explained in more straightforward terms what my thinking always has been about DeFi or DeFi. And he said, let me recollect, he said there is two kinds of he was talking about, I think, about credits and loans as one particular aspect of DeFi. And I think he said there is two types of credits and loans on DeFi, the collateralized and the non-collateralized. And the non-collateralized, no one basically wants, because I give an example. I get in German it's called Hypothek. Is loan the proper term in English for the money you receive from the bank for your house? Is that a loan? A mortgage, I think it's a term. So I get a mortgage from my bank to be able to buy my house. Not in response, but such that I can receive the mortgage, I have to give the bank kind of the paper of the ownership of my house, which basically is the collateral, which means if I don't pay the interest rates on my mortgage, they could basically sell my house because they have that ownership paper in their hands. And the same holds true for any other loan. Or let's talk about leasing a car. You lease a car at your car sale company, and basically during the time of leasing it's not your car, you're just entitled to drive it. But if you do not pay your leasing rates, basically the leasing company could take away the car from you because it's their car. And with DeFi, that mechanism doesn't change. Who would want to give you when we talk about loans and credits for $50, I really don't care. But already starting at $5,000 or so, I would want a security, a collateral. If you don't pay me the interest rates, that I basically have something I can sell to get to $5,000. Even worse, 50,000, $500,000 or more. And that's the reason why I think DeFi is a long way from what most people tell DeFi will be. I will never ever give money via such a system to a person not receiving in return a collateral I can sell in order to be able to make up for the money or coins I lend. Never ever. And something similar I think will hold true for NFTs, non-fungible token NFTs. Most people hype NFTs totally. I mean, why would I want to have a picture of a band artist, of a band leader singing a song, and just me, I have to pay? Why? I mean, and why would I need to pay for that? And why would I need to pay a lot for that? Even worse. And if you're talking about real goods, like cups or chairs or cars or whatever, I mean, some people were talking about NFTs representing houses. In Switzerland it wouldn't work. Why? Because of this paper and the Swiss housing owning mechanism process, I don't know how you call that, is based around that paper. Who is the owner of the house and who has that paper basically could sell the house. And then there is this, it's kind of like a register where there is an entry, this house or this property belongs to whatever person. And those two things go together. So the person having that paper could sell that house or property to someone, and then that new someone would be listed in the register for that property. And that's something, until that's like integrated into any of these DeFi systems or NFT systems, that'll take years. And also one of the main used to be one of my main arguments pro DeFi, was risk hedging. And I give you an example. I usually give the same example because it's an example most people can relate to. I need to quickly let me come back to the live stream. So basically, you all know Heinz ketchup, right? To produce Heinz ketchup, you need a lot of tomatoes. And Heinz ketchup wants to be able to offer its ketchup worldwide, or at least in the individual markets. Maybe it's countries, maybe it's parts of a country. In Switzerland it would be the whole country to the same price. Like in Switzerland, if you buy it in the east or in the west, in the north and the south of Switzerland, you pay the same amount for a bottle of Heinz ketchup. In Germany it might have a different price, in Italy it might have a different price, in euro a little bit, I don't know. In the US I have no clue, maybe in the east and the west it'll be a little bit differently priced as well. However, let's assume in one country, in US, the same bottle of Heinz ketchup costs more or less the same throughout the year. And they want to continue that price in the next year. But they have no clue about the price of tomatoes in the next year, because they don't know how good the harvest is. And the tomato farmer has basically the same problem. He wants to make this roughly the same profit every year, regardless of the quality and the quantity of his harvest. And what they do, they create a hedging contract. And in that hedging contract, basically, the idea of the hedging contract is that both Heinz and the farmer will get a defined price, even if the quantity or quality is higher or lower, and that will basically result in Heinz being able to offer a roughly similar price for its Heinz ketchup in the United States, as example. Do you understand that concept? Can you give me a hands up? Because that's basically something where I could imagine that a system like Flare Network could handle such a system. But still there is a problem there in such a system. And the problem is the contract itself. When this hedging contract is done on paper and they write their signatures underneath the paper, then they have something they can sue the other party. They can go and open a lawsuit and allege the other party of not delivering whatever was agreed upon in the contract. In DeFi, because the contract is electronically, if the contract is wrong, let's say Toby Yogi and me make a contract, I'm Heinz and Toby Yogi is the farmer, and we define a price, I don't know, $2 per, 10 kilos of tomatoes or so, and we define a price difference which is paid to him or to me, depending on certain factors. But now that stupid programmer did a mistake and just changed from for you that's higher and that's lower. I don't know. It's just the other, like the programmer confused the two signs, higher and lower value, which is something which can happen quite easily. And as a result of that, basically I would receive the difference in price from that contract from Toby Yogi, but because that sign was turned around, he receives the difference I would have received in addition on top of what he already missed to deliver properly to me. And whom do I then hold accountable for? You can still say, but we have the collateral. But the collateral is only that only maintains the value of the contract. But that the contract itself is properly done. Who controls that? Can a lawyer read programming code? I mean, this is something I really hope I'm wrong, but until we really see such hedging contracts about millions of dollars, like when Heinz buys potato or tomatoes from farmers, maybe there is like all farmers from the middle of US, like 500,000 tons of tomato. I have no clue about the numbers, just a really huge number, which would cost like $20 million. And if there something goes wrong, who can be held accountable? I mean, that's the whole purpose of blockchain and DeFi. No one is held accountable. And as far as we talk about value transfer and that kind of things, that might look okay. But when we talk about codings, applications running that code, I wouldn't take responsibility for any smart contract in that size, like millions of dollars. I mean, that's just crazy. And I mean, something else we have to see is that those contracts will rely on oracles. Like on Flare networks, it's those Flare time series oracles, those FTSOs. And I mean, what do you know? When they all deliver the price of XRP, that's basically pretty simple to get the price of XRP. But if you're talking about the harvest quality and quantity of tomatoes in US, maybe the FTSO in UK and Australia have no freaking clue, so they will not be able to provide that data. And if that particular FTSO provider from the US, which might know those circumstances, also switches some greater to lower sign or something, then you have a mess. And that's the reason why I personally think DeFi will play a role, NFTs will play a role, but I'm pretty sure you won't get freaking super rich of it. And I'm also pretty sure it's totally overhyped. And if I find that video again from David Schwartz where he's talking with that guy. I think I have it in my YouTube history. Then actually let me YouTube. Maybe I can quickly check history. It's a while back. Yeah, that's basically my thinking. And do you have questions for me regarding? I think it's that one. Hold on. Okay, now I found it. So I will send you the link in the chat, but I will also put the link in the description of the video later on. Good to see you. You must take 15,000 IU of vitamin D, 20 million and loads of vitamin C per day. Well, Gary, I personally am not afraid of neither of COVID nor of the vaccination. I just think it's totally wrong to force people to vaccinate. It's like that's fascist mechanism actually. Is there something else? So basically, I mean, and don't get me wrong, when I'm not so over optimistic about DeFi tokens and networks, really the only one I could imagine seeing part of the value going then is definitely Flare network, because it's the only one with the collateral. But we have to understand, and most don't understand, that basically that collateral is just maintaining the value of the contract, but not that the contract itself is properly written. That guarantee is not, there's no security about that. And if it goes wrong, who do you blame? Where's the jurisdiction? Maybe you don't even know who gave the collateral, because it's DeFi. Maybe you know it's that address, but you have no clue who sits behind that address. And it might be that some of those DeFi coins went very well, had some 100% or 1000% of profits. But for me, that's pure luck. I mean, could have turned out otherwise too. That's my wife. Maybe you didn't see her, but she brought me a nice coffee. Vielen Dank, Sonja. Hi, that's really nice. Nice espresso with a nice little Brazilian cup. I mean, if you're in German we call it, if you're a gambler in German we call it Zocker. Hi XRP. In German we call it Zocker. I think in English it's called gambler. If you're a Vegas gambler, someone who likes the risks, then please go on and try out some of those DeFi projects and coins, but don't be disappointed if the project goes haywire. We have seen the whole thing with XLM burning 50% of the coins, and everyone was hoping now XLM will explode. And it's still like factor 3 behind XRP. So basically in ratio to XRP nothing has changed. Nothing. But everyone was expecting it would increase its price because everyone is telling you supply is relevant for the price, and that's where XRP with ODL is totally different because and this is really important to understand for you guys. I agree that supply has an effect on price, but what like less than 10 people I know understand on XRP, on ODL, it's just the supply at the particular ODL exchange. Let that sink in, guys. And at the particular ODL exchange, let's say, I don't know, Bitstamp as a good example, I don't know how many XRP they have, but I'd be very surprised if it's more than 2 billion. I could imagine it's more like 500 million or so. And if you have like every second a 5 or 50 million transaction going through, okay, we have to cut that down because it's maybe like 10% of global market, and from those 10%, maybe 10% go through Bitstamp, but then we still end up at $150 million transaction every minute. And if they have like 500,000 XRP, then they're like, after 10 minutes, right? 10 times 50 is 500. Then like after 10 minutes, they're outsold. There is no way to make additional ODL payments. And to think that those 500 million XRP will come back to Bitstamp in the very same 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe, but we don't know. And once the system starts to handle such transactions, they will need at least to have between 2 and 4 times the reserve. So if they have, let's give it an example. They have to make sure that all $50 million payments go through in one day. And if they have like 500 million, 500 million XRP, we know that it like at $1 in about 10 minutes, they're gone. Maybe half of it comes back. But then after 15 minutes, they're gone. Maybe half of it comes back, but then after 17 and a half minutes, they're gone. In order to make sure to maintain the whole day, to hold that window open. I mean, I'm a little bit bad in calculation. We have 1,440 minutes a day. And if we divide that by 10, so an XRP would need, in order to be able to facilitate those payments, would need to have $150 already on so that Bitstamp with 500 million XRP is capable of maintaining a full day of transactions in this size. And the higher the value of those transactions, the higher the price will go. I was talking now about like what did I say, between 10 and 100 million is medium value. So 50 million is like the average. And let me quickly pull that up. open target 2, just to give you, I could actually share that quickly. It's been a while since I have been sharing that. So now I need to go back here, content, numbers, target 2, zack, visible. Can you see that now? Okay. So basically that's the transactions of target 2. We have like 340,000 transactions. Can you see my mouse? You can't see my mouse. But in the first row, second column, 340,000 transactions a day. Total value of 1.7 trillion is column 3. Column 4 is the average payment volume is 5 million. It's like, I don't know, hundreds of these in a second. And we have bigger than 1 million, between 1 million and 1 billion. We have, well, let's take the bigger, like row number 4, bigger than 1 million. That's 10% of all trading volume. That accounts for 33,796 transactions a day. It's like the main volume, 1.457 trillion euros here a day. That's like the average transaction is 43 million, like every 2.5 seconds. And that's just for 20% of the worldwide market. And that's something which most people they don't get it. That there are so huge values in there. And we haven't even been talking about the really high value payments. I remember a video from Stephen Thomas where he was, I think he was explaining I think it was in the same, maybe not, but maybe it was in the same video where he was talking about all the money. And he was talking that they were talking with bankers about payment sizes. And both were talking about low value. And after a while, Stephen Thomas told the banker, hold on, what is it, what we are talking about, low value? What is a low value payment for you? And the banker said $10,000. While for Stephen Thomas, low value was like 10 cents. Just to give you an idea of the ranges. And that whole thing regarding the payments and the supply, and this is, if anyone tells you XRP has too high supply, tell the person ODL is going from exchange to exchange, and it's just relevant what the supply is on that particular exchange. I mean, all the exchanges somehow worldwide will synchronize their prices, and I'd assume it'll be bigger ones, like those who will handle more ODL transactions, who will be responsible for kind of defining the price of XRP. But even if it's from those, I don't know how many ODL exchanges we have right now. Let's say we have 20 and 10 are the bigger ones. and those 10 have maybe, I don't know, 10 billion XRP, then the price of all those, of these 10 billion XRP, actually it's 1 billion because we have 10 exchanges, and then all the ODL transactions going through those individual exchanges throughout the day have to be able to be done at a price which maintains, which can be done with that 1 billion XRP. And that needs to include that they can be sure that the next day they will have that 1 billion XRP back. And obviously that depends on those on those trades going back and forth. I mean, if someone sells to Mexico, then Mexico might sell to US, so the XRP is coming back. But maybe the XRP is going in a circle around. With that, something we don't know. Could be US buys from Mexico. XRP goes to Mexico. Mexico buys from Philippines. Philippines buys from Australia. Australia buys from Japan. Japan buys from India. India buys from Europe, and Europe buys from. Because it's like turning, and it's not really taking 5 days until the XRP comes back, because the same day US buys from Mexico, Europe will buy from US, so basically the XRP flowing out will more or less simultaneously be flowing in again. But the fact is that they have to make sure that they do not run out of XRP, and for that purpose XRP just needs to have high price. It cannot happen ever that any of those 5 million or higher transactions do not go through. And whoever tells you 100 billion XRP is too high of a supply, then explain that principle. It's really important to understand. So I'm all ears about questions. If there are no questions, I'd have another topic I would like to talk about a little bit, and it's politics. I would understand that some or maybe all of you might not be interested in politics, but I think the whole world has been affected by COVID some way or the other way. And my impression is that most governments didn't do well. Some did better in some areas and some did better in other areas. But I haven't heard any person talking about being happy with how their governments dealt with that crisis. When we were in Zermatt, my wife and me, last week, actually it was on Monday. Yes, today is Monday, today is Tuesday. So yesterday, a week ago, we were walking on the 5 Lake walk in Zermatt, which was a very nice walk. We went up with the gondola. It was not a gondola, it was more like a cable car, which brought us up, and then on top we had a gondola, right? So cable car and then gondola, and then it was basically a walk down to where we came across 5 different really nice lakes on the mountains. And our way back, we went there with a train. We left our car in Visp and took from Visp the train to Zermatt. That's about the 1 hour 10 train ride. And our way back, there was a group of people from Belgium. It turned out they were from Belgium. I don't know, I realized they were talking some Flemish language something, and I was asking them if they were from the Netherlands, but they weren't. They were from Belgium, and then I just asked, may I ask you how's the COVID situation in Belgium? Are you happy with how the government performed, blah blah blah? And basically they all were advocates for vaccination. One guy even helped build the vaccination infrastructure, if you so want, in Flandern, in one part of Belgium at least. And so basically they were they were in favor of vaccination. But on my question, how did you perceive your government performed during, they basically all confirmed it was a pain in the ass. The government didn't perform well, and we can see that on Twitter again. And I basically now would like to share with you an idea, and I really would like you to promote that idea of a new system. Hold on, I need to. So maybe like that. And it's basically Galgitron's stupid is, stupid votes proposal. And I would like you to explain that to you quickly. And I'm not saying that this is the ultimate solution to our government problems, but I think the idea of Galgitron is totally interesting, and I will put the link in the description of the video of the live stream today. And I will now quickly try to explain it, because it's like a 13 pages blog article, and as those of you who know Galgitron, you know his language is really, he is ranting a lot, he's using language many people really don't like, but the essence of the article itself is so brilliant that I really want to explain it quickly. So basically he starts off the article by explaining that we need a certification today for everything. Like, you wouldn't want your head operated in the hospital by a plumber. Same as you wouldn't want your plumbing being fixed by a neuro surgeon. You want both tasks being done by people having a certificate that they know what they're doing. We need a certificate to go driving because we're a danger or we might be a danger if we don't do. For everything we do, we need a certificate. When we apply for a job in a company, we kind of need to prove that we know the stuff for what we're applying for. The only thing well, there's actually two things. Kids also everyone can get. But the thing which influences whole countries, like voting, we don't need a certification. And in the article of Galgitron, he explains that he would like to see a system where someone has to merit first his eligibility to vote or be elected. And this merit would be based on 3 pillars: on IQ, like intelligence quotient, on your education level, and on the EQ, empathy factor. And that's very important, and I will show you now why. I will basically as you can see, the pillars on the bottom relate to the value I have selected on top. So if someone is stupid, has poor education and is an asshole with other people, he gets 1. The score is multiplied the 3 values, IQ, education and EQ, and each go from 0 to 10, which gives a maximum of 1,000. So someone with a brilliant EQ 10 and maybe have a good education, but he's an asshole with other people, he would get 5% of the possible 1,000 points he could get, like just a small piece of the cake, like 50 points. Let's take, and in the article it's really funny, he writes about the Winklevoss brothers and some other well-known people who are assholes, which would get like an EQ factor of 1 or 0, which would basically make them not being able to vote and not being able to be elected. Let's assume a school teacher, IQ 7, education maybe also 7, but on the EQ he would get a 10, so he would get like half of the points, 490 of 500. A neurosurgeon with EQ of 9, education of 10, but he's an asshole, he gets like 3 on EQ. He would get like half of the points from the teacher. So the teacher would be favored in terms of he can vote and he can be elected, and he would be, that he can vote and or could be elected. And now the interesting thing is, and Galderton takes care of that in the blog, which is really interesting. He explains basically all possible criticism of that system. Like one criticism is, but then everyone is being how do you call it? Graded. But freaking hell, we're all graded all the time. Do you want the neurosurgeon fix your plumbing? No, you want the plumber to fix your plumbing. The other way around, you don't want the plumber to fix your brain, you want the neurosurgeon to fix your brain. Why? Because he has the certificate, okay? But you want to, and he has like a whole lot of other reasons, and he basically has a counter argument for each of those systems. And the interesting thing is that system he's proposing isn't about socialism or communism or what's our system? Market. Like, what's our system called? Socialism, and the opposite we're in? I forgot the term. Can someone help me? Anyway, you know what I mean. I mean, he's not talking about what kind of social system or market system that new political system will have. He's just talking about who can vote and who can be elected. And because it's all including that empathy factor, the EQ, it means that only people could vote and be elected who actually care for the society, for the I remember only Portuguese terms. What's folk in English? Capitalism, thank you. And folk in English is, hold on. Folk, and in English, people. Right. Or population, right. Thank you, Rogo. Sorry for that. And the nice thing about that system, and I promote that article, Stupid is Stupid Votes, and I will link to that article in the description of the video again. I will post it here, and please read it, and don't be afraid of the language, but try to educate. And I don't want to say that this is the ultimate solution, but I think it's something where we can start thinking about the new system, because the main thing I like about that proposal from Galgitron is it would get totally rid of corruption, because anyone who would accept some or the other way money for what he's doing would be kind of, because people would get to know about that and then would score his EQ pillar lower towards 1 or 0, which basically would lose him the probability of getting elected or even being able to vote. And that would get totally rid of the corruption. And I mean, the main, I don't know how you guys see it, but one of the main problems I see in this pandemic we have now for like almost 2 years already is like mainstream media is like the Sprachrohr of, how is that called in Sprachrohr? It's like the mouthpiece, speaking tube, I don't know how to call it in English, of the government. I mean, literally any criticism, you're kind of cancelled out, cancel culture. You're called a Nazi, you're called a COVID, I don't find the English terms like no, COVID denier, conspiracy theories, blah blah blah. But after all those, or at least parts of those conspiracy theories came true. I mean, a year ago, conspiracy theories talked about, let me go back to the, and if someone really has a high EQ, you can see the higher his EQ, and I mean all the other values as well, the more of the cake he gets of those 1,000 points, and the more eligible he will get. So basically I think this is really a good system. Now if it's really good to have for each of the 3 pillars 10 points or 11 points from 0 to 10, I don't know. Maybe one of the factors should only have 5 and another 20, so that you can overcompensate certain defeat. It's just an idea to start thinking, but I really think it's an important idea to start thinking, because it would really get totally rid of corruption. Because as soon as corruption would be known, the EQ level of that person would drop to 0, because it would basically show he doesn't care for the population, for the folk, for the citizens, for the people. Thank you, everyone. It would show that basically they care for themselves, and thus they wouldn't be. They would not be eligible anymore to take care of the people. And coming back to the main problem, and I mean, I don't know what's going wrong, but I'm pretty sure everyone agrees something is going wrong. Part of it is mass media. You're not allowed to put critical content anymore. you're being cancelled out. Other part is actually science. They say we have to trust science. But science, I mean, the most stupid thing I have heard was today or yesterday. A German woman, I think she's kind of like a president of an ethics board, like who talks about ethics. She said, eating is not your private thing. Eating is of concern for the society, because if you eat wrong, you produce cost for the society. Hence, it's important that the whole society make sure that you eat properly. What the hell is that fucking stupid person talking about? I mean, leave me alone. And if you try, and no one is questioning it anymore. And I don't really want to go down the same road as Sam I Am goes down. I mean, he's totally lost it. He thinks that the vaccine will basically kill everyone who took the vaccine. I don't think that this will be done, but that doesn't mean I totally propagate vaccination. I myself took my first vaccination today, but not because I felt forced to do it in Switzerland, because I will be restricted from participating in social life if I don't do it. And that's something I think is totally wrong from any government to do. But as soon as you try to talk a little bit critical about these aspects, you're being like cancelled out. All those people talking about ivermectin, or what's the other one? Hydroxychloroquine, I guess it's, and there's like asthma sprays and other treatments. A guy here wrote about vitamin D. In many forums they write vitamin D. I think, maybe you can correct me, Gary, but I think it helps maintain or improve your immune system in a way that it's kind of already in the starting box and not really like sleep, like in hibernation mode. That's roughly how I understood it. So basically, if your system is ready with vitamin D, it can react. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's many other things I don't understand it, why no one is listening. When we have in Switzerland questions to governments, like why did they reduce half of their ICU beds in a crisis? That's like the same thing as if an airplane goes down or we have war and I have like a bleeding wound on my thigh or so. And there comes a guy and wants to bind my leg so that I don't lose too much blood, and I would say no. I only accept sterilized cloth. I mean, how stupid is that? I'm happy that I don't bleed to death, but those idiots are reducing the ICU beds by 50% in a crisis, and now they tell us we don't have enough beds. That's stupid. They don't give us figures about the reasons of death. I don't know if that's a proper term. I asked the Department for Statistics about 3 months or 4 months back why they didn't publish reasons for deaths for 2020. Oh well, we have some issues, we'll publish it in 2020. 2020? Are you freaking kidding me? What do you have to hide? Then there's other things like this ivermectin and other stuff. Why don't they try to read those many studies who have shown that it actually can help, even if it's not helping 100%. But many people might prefer ivermectin over vaccine, so let them have it. Why not? And there is many other stuff which I hardly can understand. And to fix all those things, I think we need a new system. Just a little bit about Germany. Germany has their elections, I think in about 2 weeks or so, 23rd, maybe 10 days, I don't know. Somewhere around the end of September, they will elect their chancellor. So actually, I think if I understand it properly, they don't even elect directly their chancellor, they elect the party, and if it's the party with the most percentages in the end, they will decide who's chancellor. The fun thing, actually it's a really sad thing, all of the parties said if AfD, which is like pretty liberal, pretty right party, many call it a Nazi party or fascist party, I don't believe it's that. I think they just have very conservative values, something our countries totally have lost today. Totally. It's just about health. Whatever other moral or ethical value you try to bring to the game, it's not important. We subdue, I don't know, we put everything under the health umbrella, and I'm pretty sure many would not agree. And also the argument that life doesn't have a value, or all lives are not payable, so to speak. If someone comes with that, I mean, basically, I agree, but logically it's totally wrong. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a kid, and your kid is in danger of falling off a cliff and would die. So you could save the kid, but then you would die. Would you do that? I'm pretty sure like 99% of parents would say yes, I would save my kid's life even if I had to give my own lives. Then I ask those persons, okay, so life has no price. Would you do the same for your brother's kid? Maybe they might do that. Would you do the same for your neighbor's kid? Would you do the same for a migrant's kid? Would you do the same for the kid of a guy who raped your daughter? Would you still do the same? And suddenly you realize, not every life has the same price. It really depends on the situation. So stop with that fucking stupid, in German they call it Solidarität, that we need to take care for each other. We only take care as long as it goes to our like 4 walls around us and everything. There is few people, if it's their responsibility, as long as it's not their responsibility, they say, yes, we need to take care for everyone. We cannot let it happen. But if I say, okay, then give me $10,000 every month so that we can take care for the poor in your village or whatever. 10,000? No, not for me. I give you 100, okay? As long as everyone else takes care, then we say yes, we need to take care for them. But it's totally different if you need to take care for them. And because so many things are wrong currently, I really don't know how you see it. I don't want to come over as a totally right person. I wrote recently, I used to be a left voter, like for 15-20 years or so. And on Twitter I started following some interesting people, and through them I came across to another guy, a biologist, who is totally defending that male is male and female is female, and there is nothing in between. That those in between, it's like a hand with 6 fingers, and a normal human person has 5 fingers. There might be occasions where a person has 6 or 4 fingers or 3 or whatever, but it's definitely not a new kind of race. It's like something's off there, and it's bad. We can help those people, but it doesn't mean that this is a new gender or whatever. I don't really want to talk about that. Anyway, that person was talking about the professor who kind of was, how do you call it, mobbed, hold on, bullying. He was bullied out of his position as a professor at the university just by asking a question if they're applying the racial quota properly. He was just asking a question, and he was like bullied out of his job. And in that whole argument, he gave a title for a book, and I bought that book and read the book, and it was the most brilliant book I've read in the past 20 years. The Righteous Mind from Jonathan Haidt, I guess. And Jonathan talks in his books a little bit about, well, actually not a little bit, he talks about where morale, like ethics, comes from. Moral principles, is that a term in English? And he did quite a lot of research, and he used to be a leftist, more or less. That's the way I understood it. Like most scientists or people coming from science are left. But doing his research, he basically got an understanding for the moral concepts from the more conservative people. And I read that book, and it basically opened my mind, and finally I could understand where those conservative people come from and what their values are. And it's actually pretty interesting. The left draws their moral principles from 2 pillars, and the right from 5 or maybe even 6 pillars. And the left cannot understand those other 4 pillars because they lack the imagination to think that there's other sources where a moral principle can come from. And by reading that book, you basically start to understand both sides. I do understand the leftists. They want to save people from dying through COVID. I'm pretty sure many people died from COVID. But what I'm also pretty sure is that most likely, and like 90% of the people I talk to confirm that, they don't think that all those figures we hear were COVID deaths. And there's a lot of other lies and stuff. And by coming back to that article from Galvatron, he proposes a system, I repeat again, which is based on 3 pillars, on IQ, also intelligence, education, and emotional qualities. And each of the pillars, I think in his example, the pillars can go from 1 to 10, and I think it could even go from 0 to 10. And maybe those numbers could be changed by some person really dealing well with figures. Maybe the emotional quotient could go up to 20 and IQ only up to 5. I really don't know. the interesting thing about that system is that everyone would get a rating, and that only people with proper rating would be able to vote and would be able to be elected. And who doesn't want to be rated forgoes his rights to vote or to be elected. That's his choice. But whoever wants to participate and wants to help the population, people, folk, citizens, could be elected pending the fact he has a better overall score with the 3 pillars than other people. And the whole system would basically get rid of corruption, because corruption would kind of like for free be eliminated, because anyone doing corrupt things, it would get known by certain people, and people would talk about, and his EQ level would go to 0. So that was basically my content for today. I was talking, damn it, 1.5 hours. So let's go through the question. Sorry, I'm a bit late. You still think $100 is achievable? Absolutely. I still think 4 figures and eventually 5 figures will be available. I would recommend you all watch Cliff High on BitChute if you want to know what is going on. Cliff High, let me on BitChute. I will write that down. Good to see you back. Well, Rohit, when we will see the $100, I really don't know. I could imagine as many of those TA analysts think that we could see $10 after the SEC settlement is done pretty quickly, and after then it's just a factor 10 to $100. I mean, we see since, about a year ago, in November, and I think end of November last year, when the SEC case was announced, we dropped to, I think, 17, the lowest daily price candle I saw was, I think, 17 cents. An interesting question. How do you determine EQ? Well, that's the point. Other people would rate you. Like if you go and care for people with Down syndrome, people seeing that would give you a high score on EQ. If you help an elderly woman crossing the street, other people seeing you would give you a high score. If you kick a kid's ass with your foot, and someone reports that to the system, and the whole thing could be tracked in blockchain. That's one of the cornerstones as well. Obviously, because blockchain would make all that information publicly visible. How that's being done would need to be figured out properly. The EQ is commonly used to find out what extent people are emotionally skilled through expression, self-knowledge, and who can achieve social successes or. Exactly. MSM corrupted information migrates. Okay. Well, XRP hard. Read the article. I will put the link into the video after I watch Champions League. Now in a few minutes. It's really interesting. For each and every argument against that system, he has a counter argument, and it's really worth reading all the 13 pages of text. I've read it 3 or 4 times since he posted it already, maybe even more. It's really interesting. The thing is, there will, about the corruption, there will always be certain whistleblowers, and as soon as there is a whistleblower putting something into that rating system, talking about the person not doing something the proper way, other people could investigate. And if that's a fake news about the person doing something wrong, then that person putting that fake news would be checked and get the low EQ, because he would try to kind of compromise the EQ value of the other person. So basically it would kind be of a self-healing system if someone only honesty and transparency would win. Everything I give you an example. In the early days of Facebook, there was a story in Switzerland that a young girl applied for an apprentice job at the village department, we call it Gemeinde. And she got the job, and she went home and put on Facebook, hey, I got the job, but hey, damn, my future boss has a fat ass. And incidentally, that future boss read that comment and cancelled the contract. That was basically my initial idea of our social networks, that everything would be transparent. The problem is everyone hides behind an avatar and no one knows who is whom, and that way all those hate speech I can tell you, if those people on social media would be in the same room, like less than 0.5% would be the same radical as they are on Twitter, I'd be the same radical. I have no problems defending in real life. I could even explain it more properly. I would use the same words, but I had the opportunity to explain what I mean. Thank you, Gary regarding the vitamin D. Hi Rohit, thanks for thanking. Gary, well, I still think the US election was rigged, but I'm very disappointed about the Republican Party not having seen that this would happen and not having taken more precautions from it happening. That's basically stupid. So when I know that you will win the race and I want to win the race, I will make sure I'm better prepared for the race so that I at least have a chance to win the race. But I will not let you drive in a faster car knowing that I could drive a faster car as well. So with that, I want to leave you alone. It was like 1.5 hours today. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really wish you all you stay healthy. Don't think of me as Nazi, racist or totally right. I just came to the conclusion this year that I think we have to go back to our conservative values, stuff which holds us as family, as society, as country together, and not being ruled by some people who think they know what's good for us. That's basically the summary of the second part of my video. And with that, I leave you alone. If you have further questions, there was a question about my Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is ipinky7. You can always write to me there. You can also leave a comment on my video here. And with that, I wish you a good time, and let's hope that the SEC case is soon over and we see really some price actions. Take care. Bye bye.
I'm faster, I'm more secure than you'll ever be. I'm faster, I'm cheap, and my name is XRP.